Ferrari get battered everywhere they go. Ferrari get battered everywhere they go. Everywhere they go. What's going on, people? Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another edition, of course, of Peter on Pole. This is the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix review, as you can see on the screen right there. Red Bull 1-2 at Ferrari's home. Unbelievable stuff. What an incredible race it was. How many of you watched it? Comment down below. Thank you for everybody that's joining me live right now. And thank you to those who are watching on the replay. Please leave your comments in the comment section and I will be getting back to them. But yes, the headline, 1-2 for Red Bull. Max Verstappen, maximum points, by the way, in terms of the entire weekend. He, of course, qualified on pole. He won the sprint race. He won the race and he was the fastest lap. As I mentioned, he will do so in the preview back on Friday morning. But yes, what a weekend it was. Another twist, another turn in the Formula One Championship. Just in case, people, you thought this title race was done, it is far from done, okay? Have a look at this, ladies and gentlemen. Look at the podium right there. Unbelievable. You know, when you think about the season that Ferrari are having, and you know how I mentioned things like what can go wrong, will go wrong. And yes, in part, I do say it as a joke, but also I do say it as with a bit of seriousness in there as well, because I genuinely do believe that this is, this is what Ferrari are capable of. But yes, as we start the race, Max Verstappen this time round got off to a better start. Remember his horror start at the sprint race where Charles Leclerc overtook him straight away. This time round he got off to a better start. In fact, Charles had an absolute horrible start. Both Ferraris had a horrible start, really, because Lando Norris, guys, absolutely jumped both Ferraris at the start, and it was a very, fantastic start to the race. Lando Norris up into third. Sergio Perez, of course, as well took over Charles Leclerc, and he got himself into second place. And once basically it was those two in front, you really didn't see anything else coming back. There were moments where Charles came back into the race. There were moments where, he could have actually taken second place quite comfortably and gained some serious points. Because at the end of the day, even if Ferrari had finished third and fourth, then, that would have been still a good haul of points for the race weekend. Our man Carlos Sainz, rather. Our man Carlos Sainz. I mean, listen, it's one thing, okay, to be, we are critical of Carlos, and we were critical, and then we kind of forgave him afterwards. We were a bit like, maybe we were a bit harsh. Who knows? But my goodness, guys, what a weekend! What a contrasting of days for both Charles and then Mr. Carlos Sainz, because you really couldn't make it up with him, could you? You really couldn't make this weekend up. Another exit, another DNF in the race. 2 DNFs in a row for Carlos Sainz. And I'll tell you what, had Charles won this race, then it would have been safe to say, you know what, Mr. Carlos, you are going to be driver number 2. You're going to be driver number 2, because there's no way now you could be in this title race. But because Charles also didn't, Charles had a good recovery at the end. I think he finished P6 or P5. I'll double check that. I think it was P6. At the end of the day, the points are there, but it's not as great as what we would have first thought it should be for the Ferrari, for the Scuderia. But I mean, and the crowd as well, before the race, the flares were off. Everything was quite impactful. It looked like it was going to be an absolute fantastic atmosphere. And it was as soon as when Charles overtook, I think he overtook Perez at one point. And when he did so, the crowd went mental. And when he overtook Norris, the crowd went mental. And it was like, okay, cool, game on. But as soon as Carlos Sainz went out and was touched by Daniel Ricciardo, who was pushed by Valtteri Bottas, there's quite a lot going on there. As soon as that happened, the crowd, you could hear the roar as well. Again, there was just as much as you heard the roar, you heard the disappointment as well for the Ferrari fans. Imola was absolutely jam-packed. Didn't matter what the weather was like, because it looked horrible. It was raining, and it was just a bit like wouldn't want to be there. But you would want to be there for the action, of course. What a phenomenal race weekend, for sure. Ferraris had a mare. Ferraris had an absolute mare. they've got to recover for Miami, which is it next week or the week after rather. They've got to recover quickly because they had an absolute Western in this weekend. At their home weekend, maybe the pressure was just too much for them. But Ferrari absolutely flopped the base at their home Grand Prix. And yeah, Carlos Sainz, as we were saying before, Carlos Sainz really, we were sort of kind of showing them some grace, showing them some forgiveness after what he did in sort of like the sprint race. But then he gave us this, not his fault. But at the same time, it was a case of he really needed to get some strong points. He really needed to get on the podium this weekend, and unfortunately, he could not do so. But other talking points. I mean, there were so much things to get through and to get on with there. But yeah, not a good day for Ferrari. A day to forget for them. In all honesty, can I talk about this man for just a hot minute? Will you allow me? Ladies and gentlemen, for a hot minute? Mr. Lando Norris, step to the stage. He's third again at Imola. The second season in a row at Imola. He is on the podium. P3, ladies and gentlemen. Unbelievable stuff. How happy, how delighted. Remember, McLaren Fan TV will be live tomorrow, 7 p.m. UK time. Tuesday, 7 p.m. UK time. We'll be discussing everything about the weekend from a McLaren point of view. Yeah? But Lando Norris in the podium, I don't need to say much more. Obviously, Daniel Ricciardo, a day to forget. Shall we say? Yeah, a day to forget. But that's okay. That's okay for me because as long as I got somebody in the podium, that's okay for me. I am more than happy to take that on. Another person to talk about, Mr. George Russell. I tell you what, he's done bloody good this season, hasn't he? All things considered, right? He's done bloody well. Fair play to George Russell. He's had a good. Since the season has started, when you consider everything that Mercedes are going through, and how ironic, right? How weird that I say Mercedes ain't out of this title race, and then Mr. Lewis Hamilton over here, we'll get onto him in a second, saying that he's out of the title race. Lewis, I thought we had an agreement, huh? I thought this is not how it's supposed to go. But anyway, Mercedes, Russell seems to have that car a little bit underneath him, if that makes sense, better than Hamilton. Would we agree, or am I being a bit too far? Am I jumping the gun here? But it feels like George Russell's got that car just a little bit better than Lewis Hamilton. Now, there's always been a caveat for every single race so far this season, it seems like, with Mercedes, right? It seems like, or maybe, the accidents happen in front of them, car crashes or whatever, and, weather, whatever it may be, right? Whatever it may be, or Lewis told to hold position because of whatever's going on. Whatever the case may be, George Russell, at the end of the day, the only driver in Formula One this season to finish in the top 5 every single race. Only 4 races in, but every single race, Mr. Consistent, is fair to say, goes to George Russell to be in the top 5 every single race this season. And he's been on the podium as well this season, as he was out in Australia. Okay? So George Russell is doing a good show, by the way. He's maturing and he's getting better and better and better. Since year one with George Russell, I've been very, very skeptical. I've been very, very, I don't get all the noise. I don't get all the hype. And as the years go on, slowly, because he sort of takes 1 step forward, 2 steps back in my estimation, in terms of just, his driving ability as well as his character. His character is one thing I do question more often than not. But this year so far, he's going up in my estimation. And he had a great battle with Valtteri Bottas, by the way, which, how ironic, right? It was a crazy battle at Imola. This time, Bottas hunting down George Russell. But in the end, George Russell fended him off, held him off there. And it was just so bizarre to see an Alfa Romeo chasing down a Mercedes. The season couldn't get any more crazy. Am I right? The season couldn't get any more crazy. But yes, shout out to George Russell at the end of the day. He's done a good performance this weekend. He's done a good performance all season round, considering the issues that are going on at Mercedes. So hats off to Mr. George Russell. No longer need to call him Saturday, Mr. Saturday, do we? We no longer need to do that because he's holding his own, in fairness to him. He's absolutely holding his own. However, the guy I do want to get into conversation with a little bit more is Mr. Lewis Hamilton. Now, Lewis, I've got a bone to pick with you at the moment, mate, because as far as I remembered, you're an Arsenal fan, yeah? Where am I looking? See the badge here? You're an Arsenal fan last time I checked. What are you doing bidding for Chelsea for? What are you doing bidding for Chelsea for? We'll be doing a video on that during the week because, I got some questions, Lewis. And it's no surprise, right? You've had the worst weekend probably of the season so far. That's what you get when you get yourself involved with Chelsea Football Club, okay? This is a Formula One podcast. It's a Formula One show. So we're going to stick to Formula One. But I'm just saying, Lewis, as a gooner, very, very disappointed. Very, very disappointed in you. But anyway, Lewis Hamilton, has ruled himself out of the title race already. Even when Toto Wolff has said, look, we're still not out of this championship, Lewis then went on to say, I think it was to Rachel Brooks, well, I'm out of it. So, maybe he's talking about the constructors or maybe he's talking about George. But I'm definitely out of it. And it was a bit like, imagine this, after the week where I've said, listen, do not sleep on Mercedes. It's not over. They can still keep going. They can still keep going. All of a sudden now, my man comes out and does this. Lewis, man, this is not what we're meant to be hearing from you. This Lewis Hamilton as well, guys, I don't know, we need to have a discussion a little bit here because I'm getting that smell of later stage McLaren, Lewis Hamilton. I'm getting that smell. Do you know what I mean? I'm getting that smell. And it's that thing of, look, we know the car isn't good. We know the car isn't great, but that's never stopped Mercedes, sort of going back to the garage, fixing what they need to do, and then they come back out flying again. Remember last year? Last year, Red Bull was supposed to clean sweep this title last season, right? And it was not easy. In fact, they should have lost the title in some instances, right? So this defeatist mentality of Lewis is weird. It's weird, especially coming from a person who is very much positive thinking, positive speaking. He tries to breathe life into most things, right? And then this defeatist mentality that I'm getting from him, I'm not impressed with. I'm not happy with. Lewis, this isn't you. So I don't know quite what's going on with Lewis Hamilton at the moment. He's definitely not in the right headspace. He's definitely not in the right headspace. And he needs to sort it out. He needs to sort it out ASAP. So Lewis Hamilton there, kind of very, very, a bit off on the stage, a bit off there with his thoughts on what the season's going to bring for him this season round. But, the talking point, people, the thing that we are here for, we need to talk about, let's have a look at this, shall we? Let's have a look at this. This is Red Bull's trophy cabinet from this weekend, from this race weekend. Now, I don't know if the quali's in there, but, there's a tyre for him somewhere for Max Verstappen. But you're looking at sprint race wins, you're looking at race win, you're looking at podium finish, 1-2 for Red Bull. Red Bull having an absolute whale of a time today. They'll be celebrating it all week, especially because I think Miami is not this weekend, it's the following weekend, if I'm correct, right? So in that case, they're loving life. They're loving life. So, honestly, Red Bull, like we say, if they finish the race, they win the race, don't they? And no reliability issues to speak of this weekend, neither for Max, nor for Perez, nor for Gasly, nor for Yuki Tsunoda, who, by the way, Yuki, big up yourself, okay? But, just look at this cabinet here, and it's showing you something that, what, these boys are here to they want a clean sweep. They want to make the constructors theirs. So shout out to Sergio Perez, by the way, as well. I mean, I've got all the time in the world for you, my friend. You know me, Sergio. I've got all the time in the world for you. I wish you were still a McLaren driver, but nonetheless, I've got all the time in the world for you because your racing this weekend has been brilliant. Your racing all season has been brilliant. And, hats off to Sergio Perez because he deserves all the plaudits. What a good appointment by Red Bull. Finally, not messing around with the youngsters. What I'm saying? I'm all for young people doing well, don't get me wrong. But listen, this is not what we come here for. So let's go to the table. Let's have a look here. Max Verstappen, of course, and then Sergio Perez. Max Verstappen, 26 points, of course, because he got the fastest lap as well. And, Charles Leclerc, by the way, his mistake, where did he finish? Yeah, he finished P6. Charles Leclerc's mistake in what turn was it when he sort of attacked the sausage curb a bit too hard and then went out. I mean, it's just, you know, 8 points at the end of the day. He's still got some good, decent amount of points, but that gap now, I think it's reduced to, what is it, 27 points? You know, it's a farce. It's a farce. But, you know, he finished behind Valtteri Bottas, behind George Russell, behind Lando Norris, you know, just ahead of Yuki Tsunoda, who I said had a good, absolute good race. But yeah, you know, Charles Leclerc had an absolute mare in that race there. If I just scroll down to the DNFs, here he is, Carlos Sainz. There we go. Ferrari. What can go wrong will go wrong. In fairness to Carlos Sainz, it wasn't his fault. But for Charles Leclerc, what can go wrong went wrong. Okay. Fernando Alonso as well, you know, got hit by Mick Schumacher at the start. The side part of his car was obviously became absolutely untenable. He only did 6 laps, and there was a hole in the car, for crying out loud, and he was done. Daniel Ricciardo, as I said, we don't want to talk about that, do we? We don't want to talk about that. But he had a bit of a terrible race. Obviously, with the accident with Carlos Sainz, it cost his race as well. In all fairness, Mick Schumacher didn't have a good one either. You know, he wasn't having a great time of things. You know, he had a spin at some stage in the race. I'm trying to remember who else he hit into. I think it might have been the Alonso situation, but I have a feeling he did something else. Something else happened. And didn't he start P10? He had an absolute shocker. Latifi, you know, is there. You know, he's just there. When you compare him to Alex Albon in the 11th, Alex Albon having a great time. You know, and Esteban Ocon, I don't know what's quite gone on there. Joe Guan Yu rather, he didn't have a great time either. Lewis Hamilton, we spoke about him already. Pierre Gasly, underwhelming this season. Is it just me? A bit underwhelming this season, maybe because it's, you know, the new regulations, they've kind of thrown the pad everywhere a little bit. By the way, Aston Martin double points finish, ladies and gentlemen. Aston Martin double points finish, albeit 10th and 8th. Okay, so they collected 5 points, but nonetheless, double points finish. Big up to them. Kevin Magnussen, great stuff from you today as well, in terms of the racing and all sorts. The battling that you were having with a few drivers today was absolutely brilliant. And Yuki Tsunoda, good races here in this section here. From Yuki to Albon, you could say, you know what, they've done well. Albon unlucky to miss out on the point, but nonetheless had a good weekend there. Valtteri Bottas, George Russell, as I mentioned before, Lando Norris, hello, and of course the 1-2 for the Red Bulls. Let's have a look at the driver standings at the moment. So far this season, Charles Leclerc still leads, but the gap has reduced incredibly. That's 27 points between Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen now. Remember, it was George Russell who was P2, but now it's Max Verstappen, and even also importantly, Mr. Sergio Perez is P3 in the Drivers' Championship. Sorry, George Russell in 4th, Carlos Sainz in 5th, Lando Norris in 6th, ahead of Lewis Hamilton. So we're starting to get a bit of shape. It's still very, very early, but we're getting a little bit of shape here in terms of the Drivers' Championship. Miami, a brand new circuit again, so we're not gonna know a thing in terms of what could we expect from all the drivers that are kind of in that mix. Ferrari's lead to Red Bull has been cut short to just 11 points. Remember, it was Mercedes who are second. Now it's Red Bull who are second. 11 points is the difference between Ferrari and Red Bull. Comment down in the comment section below. Let me get your thoughts on the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix this weekend. But I tell you what, have a look at this. I mean, Mercedes are there, McLaren, you know, well ahead of the Alpine at the moment. Alpine have had a funny weekend. Don't quite know what's going on with the Alpine. I don't know quite what's happened. They were having a good whale of a time at the start of the season. Ocon had a funny Australian Grand Prix. I think they brought like a new floor for him. And then this weekend, it's just gone Pete Tong for them. Look, Alfa Romeo are even ahead of them at this moment in time. And of course, Aston Martin now have got points as well. So everyone's got points so far in the Constructors' Championship, which is what we like to see because we want to see more competition. And so therefore, you know, who knows how this bottom part here will end. Because if you look at it, Haas are 8th in the Constructors, which is disappointing, don't you think? Considering how it all seemed to have started with them. And now they're a point behind AlphaTauri, you know, it's a bit weird, you know. So we'll see. Obviously, Williams with the 1 point thanks to Alex Albon's heroic performance in Australia. But yes, it's tight now between Ferrari and Red Bull. It's bloody tight. 11 points now. So every race is going to mean something. Every race is going to mean something. And you know what's funny, guys? I genuinely think as soon as you put some pressure on the Ferraris, they don't have the minerals, people. They just don't have the minerals. That's just my opinion. I don't know. I don't know if I'm being incredibly harsh or whatnot, but they just don't seem to have the minerals. And you could say the same thing about Mr. Sergio Perez, because there was a moment in the race where he was being hunted down by Charles Leclerc and he went wide, having to go over the track, and then Charles Leclerc caught up with him. It seemed like that the sort of the outlap after going in the pit, Sergio struggled with getting those tyres warm, but then in the second lap, he was good to go. The Red Bull is phenomenal. The car is fast. It's fast, man. It's absolutely fast. I don't think Ferrari had the pace necessarily. But there you have it. 1-2. Look at Christian Horner there in the middle. 1-2 there. You got Max Verstappen in winning the race. Sergio Perez in second place. What a great day it was. Maximum points for Max Verstappen, by the way. Qualified on pole, won the sprint race, won the race on Sunday, and got the fastest lap. It couldn't have got any better. Anything you could claim, Max cleanly swept it all away, and as I thought he would. And so there you have it. That's what's currently happening so far this season. That is where we currently stand in the Formula One World Championship. It is absolutely unbelievable. This season is great. If we thought last season was phenomenal, this season is going to be great. And we'll have to see how it pans out. Miami Grand Prix, I haven't got a Scooby. I couldn't predict anything, anywhere, anyhow. So it's anybody's guess. How about McLaren get a 1-2 next weekend, or McLaren the Miami Grand Prix weekend? How about that? Let's go with that, shall we? But people, leave your comments in the comment section below. That was the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix. In terms of driver of the day, of course, Max Verstappen, driver of the weekend, really. And Sergio Perez for me is almost a close second. Lando Norris, of course, being in third place was phenomenal scenes. Great day, great weekend for Red Bull. Disaster for Ferrari, and sort of a mixed bag for McLaren, because they got on a podium, but they also finished 18th as well. So it's a bit everywhere. And George Russell is keeping Mercedes with a bit of dignity at the moment in time. So yeah, and Hamilton says he's out of the title race. Those are kind of your main talking points so far at the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix in Imola. And Italy will see you again soon when we come back down to Monza. Maybe Ferrari will handle the pressure better down there. But until then, people, I'll be back tomorrow evening, ladies and gentlemen. Tomorrow evening, 7 p.m. UK time, Tuesday, McLaren Fan TV. I want to get all McLaren people. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your comments in the comment section. Let's have a little dialogue. Let's talk about our team and talk about how they've done in this weekend's Emilia Romagna Grand Prix. Red Bull 1-2 in Ferrari's backyard. With that, people, it's lights